welcome back from the break. We've got a really great speaker up next. Alex spoke actually at Epic in 2018 about hacking his friend, and it was pretty entertaining. His talk today is, I'll get the title, Finding Tony Abbott's Passport Number and Entering the Do Not Get Arrested Challenge for 2020. And this was an amazing blog post that came out and made him a Twitter celebrity. Yeah. So, and this is, we saw a bit of a preview of this one, so really looking forward to this talk. So a big round of applause for Alex, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alex, but you can call me Alex with the double quotes. And you might be wondering, what's up with the double quotes? What's the deal with that? It's quite simple. A few years ago, some journalists wrote about a blog post that I wrote, and they said, according to a post by a hacker who goes by the name Alex in double quotes. And that's my real name. So now my real name is my hacker name. Enjoy it. But if you're worried about me, don't be. Because if you Google this, which, I had to Google it and find out, if you Google it, you just get this guy. I don't know what this guy's deal is, but don't worry about it. So if you see any crimes being done by Alex, probably this guy. I also organized this conference called PurpleCon, which is like a security conference that instead of looking like this, looks like this. And we did this because, me and a couple of other people did this because we were like, oh, we always thought that hacking, hacker culture had always been about rebelling or doing your own thing. And we were like, oh, everyone's rebelling by doing this kind of thing, but they're all rebelling in the same way. And we're like, oh, well, it'd be good if we could rebel in a different way so everyone could see that they can choose their own way to do it. And so that's why we made a thing that looked like this. Also, it seemed like a lot of fun, and it seemed like you can just make a conference and do whatever you want, and no one can stop you if you just pretend like you're adults. It was great. But professionally, I work on the red team at Atlassian, and before that, I did incident detection and response. But also, what does red team mean? There's a lot of different meanings for that. Don't worry, allow me to explain. It's very simple. Our job is to hack Atlassian exactly like a real hacker would, exactly do whatever they would do, and then tell Atlassian all about it, because a real hacker doesn't tell you what you missed. And then finally, we sell the stolen data on the dark web, so that... No, not really. We don't do that last part. We don't do that last part anymore. No, really we don't do it. Really, we don't do that last part. I'm so sorry. But enough about work. Let's talk about a fun thing that I like to do on the weekends. One weekend, one Sunday, I was just hanging out at home, drinking water, not really doing anything in particular, and then I got this message in the group chat. And the message is a link to an Instagram post. If you don't know Instagram, it's an app you can look at anytime to look at ads. And the Instagram post is to a picture of a boarding pass, and the message says, @Alex, can you hack this man? From someone. And the man in question is former Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott. And the link is to an Instagram post he made, which is this Instagram post. And it's a picture of his boarding pass for a flight. And he's got a caption which is coming home from Tokyo or something, I don't know. And I should be very clear that my friend is asking me, why is my friend asking me, can you hack this man? This is not the kind of group chat where we all commit cyber treason. It's not that kind of chat. My friend was asking me because we'd recently been talking about boarding passes. And I was saying, yeah, I think people post their boarding passes all the time on Instagram or Twitter or whatever because they don't know that your boarding pass can be used to get your secret information like your passport or something. I didn't really know. I just knew it was bad to post your boarding pass somehow. People post it all the time because they don't realize it's bad. And that's why my friend, who has seen this post by former Australian Prime Minister, Tony Abbott, has sent me this message saying, can you hack this man? And I'm just looking at this message, and just to be clear, he's not actually asking me to hack the former Prime Minister. I'm not a crazy person who would do that kind of thing. He's just sending me this message just for regular, normal reasons. But, surely you do it. How could you not? Imagine if that link is just staring at you. Surely you click on that link. Surely you find out. Wouldn't you be curious about it? From my point of view, the former Prime Minister had just posted his boarding pass on the internet, and I was like, is this bad? Is this dangerous? I don't know. If it is bad, someone should probably do something about that. But I don't even know if it is dangerous. And what I did know was that the least I could do for my country was to have a quick browse of whatever's on this page. And then I was like, wait, I don't know how to hack boarding passes. How do you do this? Why is it? I know that something can happen, like it's bad if it's public, but why is it bad if it's public? What do you do if you have someone's boarding pass, just theoretically? And so I was like Googling it, and I found this blog post, which was like, oh yeah, the important part about the boarding pass, the secret part, is the barcode. And the barcode has a booking reference, which is like the 6-digit code that you type in when you like log into a flight, and that's the secret thing. So then I was like, okay, so I have to scan the barcode, I guess, and I tried to scan it with my phone and do the like barcode scanning thing, but it wasn't working, and I zoomed in the picture, and it still wasn't working. So then I like went into Photoshop and tried to like, zoom in even more, like increase the contrast or like make the lines easier to see. In retrospect, I probably shouldn't have blurred out the barcode first, but for whatever reason, it wasn't working. Like, I still couldn't scan it, and I was like, I spent like 15 minutes looking at this picture in Photoshop, and only after that time did I realize that while it's true that the barcode couldn't be scanned, the 6-digit booking reference that I need was also just printed there on the boarding pass. And I was like, I graduated university, and it did not help with this. So then I had the booking reference, and then I was like, okay, so I think, now what do I do with this? Where do I put it? And so I was like, oh, I think you go to like when I've got on a flight, you put your booking reference, you go to the website, and you go to the manage booking screen, which looks like this. And they ask you for two things. They ask you for your booking reference, which I just had, and the second thing they ask you for is your last name. I was really hoping the second thing would be like a password or something hard to get, but then I realized that the booking reference is the password, and the last name is the username. And so I was like, oh. Also, I know the last name because it's Abbott, because it's Tony Abbott's. He just posted it on Instagram. I know what the last name is. Also, the last name is on the boarding pass, even if I somehow just found the picture. Like, everything you need is on that boarding pass. And so it was also around this time that I started recording my screen, which is about to pay off big time. So that's what it was like. And at that point, I was thinking, oh, geez, that was easy. That was like, I just logged into this page, and now I'm logged into former Prime Minister Tony Abbott. Quick reminder, I'm not in jail right now. Nothing bad happened, just to be clear. Anyway, so then I was looking at this screen, and I was like, that does say Anthony Abbott, whoever that is. And I'm like, this is probably not ideal that I can see this, but then I was kind of going through the stages of grief and being like, well, I'm after denial now. Maybe this is actually fine. Like, yeah, I'm like logged into this airline thing, but there doesn't seem to be anything super secret here. It's just like his name is there, sure. I think there's this frequent flyer number there. I'm like, yeah, whatever. That's not a huge deal. I don't really know. It doesn't seem like a huge deal. So maybe it's fine. And so then I looked around some more, and it was like, yeah, this flight has been booked by a travel agent. And so I was like, oh, maybe that's why, because maybe the travel agent, they don't put all your details in there because the travel agent just books it. Maybe this is a particularly safe version of the logged in screen that doesn't have as much information in it. But then I was like, well, I'm not going to give up just because there's nothing on the web page. Like, I'm not just going to trust this web page blindly. I was like, I wonder if there's anything else in this page somehow that I can't see. And so to find those other things, I used an illicit hacker tool. And so I'm warning you that there's some illicit. I feel like you know where this is going, but to show you the illicit hacker tool, I prepared a short video.
Please not in front.
I'm so sorry you all had to see that. So after I'd done, the page looked like this, and I was like looking at the page source of this like random Qantas like airline page, and I was like, yep, that looks like a website, that looks like HTML. And I was just kind of scrolling around in there randomly trying to be like, is there anything secret in here? Is there anything that's like, is there any information here that's not just meant for showing the website? Maybe there's, data that's about this airline booking, but it's not being shown on the page for whatever reason. And I quickly realized that like scrolling around, just looking at it with my eyes was not a very efficient way of defending my country, because it took a very long time. And so I was like, okay, there's got to be a better way. So then I realized I could just search in the page for like passport and stuff, and I did search for passport, and there was a bunch of things that had passport in them, but then weren't anything interesting. They just like mentioned the topic of passport. But I was noticing there was this big JSON like section where there's like loads and loads of JSON things in the page, and I was like, why is this in this managed booking page. Sometimes web pages can have a whole bunch of like JSON in them for non-cyber treason reasons, but I was like, what is going on here? And eventually, one of the things that said passport was this one, and it had a bunch of fields like date of birth and issuing country and document number, and then after document number was something that looked a lot like a passport number. I realized I don't really know what passport numbers look like. I don't really know what mine looks like, and it was kind of vaguely like mine. And then I was like, that looks like someone's passport number. And then I looked at the date of birth and it had a birthday, and I looked up Tony Abbott's birthday on Wikipedia, and it was the same date of birth. So then I was like, I think I may be looking at the extremely secret government-issued ID of former Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott, Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of Australia, servant to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. This could be bad, is what I was thinking, is that maybe I shouldn't be looking at this. And like, for all I know, everyone else who saw that Instagram post could also be here looking with me, because anyone could be doing this, and I can't tell if someone else has done it. And then I was like, okay, well, I mean, what else is in here? While we're doing this, like, is there anything else in here? Any other prime minister? Is Queen Elizabeth's passport number in here? Like, what else is going on? And so I searched for other stuff. Maybe there's a phone number in here. So I searched for phone and number and like other things that looked like phone number, but nothing came up. And then I was like, well, okay, maybe the phone number's there, but it's not called phone number. It's just there randomly. Like the passport number is called document number. And so I was like, I had a galaxy brain moment, and I searched for 614, which is the beginning of an Australian phone number. And that led me to this content, which was a whole bunch of weird uppercase stuff. And it did, in fact, it did have a phone number in there, something that looked like a phone number, but it also had all these like uppercase codes, and it was like separated by pipes, and I was like, what is going on? What does this mean? And then in there, it also had the passport number again, which is great, but then it had like stuff that looked like English, someone talking. It says like, so-and-so called requesting fast track for Mr. Abbott, like a person typed that, not a computer. And I was like, looks like there's people from Qantas talking about Tony Abbott, but they're sending it to him when he checks when he goes to manage his booking. And I'm like, what is going on here? And I'm still like, hey, there is a phone number in here, but there's also like telling people where Tony Abbott should sit. Please sit here and not here. And like saying, oh, here's the passport number again, and saying there's this other phone number. I still don't know what this other phone number is now. And they're talking about the fast track stuff, and I was really confused because this doesn't look like the kind of thing that should be in a managed booking page. And I was like, okay, this is some airline code for something. All these uppercase things, this must mean something. And it turns out these are special service request codes when I looked them up. And when I looked them up, the web page was like, warning, this is going to be cryptic. And don't worry, it was. And so SSR codes are for things like vegetarian meal, or like this person needs a wheelchair or something. That's what they're for. And so like, here's some examples of some SSR codes that I like. I'm kind of feeling this one, passenger with emotional support animal in cabin. I'm really glad that's a code, because it could happen. So that's why they got to have a code for it. So here's a bunch of the codes that were in this like random uppercase spaghetti. And there was this one, FQTV means frequent traveler apparently, and QF means Qantas, it's like the airline code, and HK1 means passenger one. HK stands for holding confirmed. I don't know why that's the code for it. This one, which is about the where to sit, Tony Abbott, is like, oh, this is information for the airport personnel. And the one with the phone number is CTCM, and I was like, what does that mean? It's CTCM and then passenger one and then the phone number. I looked it up and it says, yep, this is where you store the passenger's phone number. And I was like, okay, so that would be the phone number of passenger one, which should be Tony Abbott's phone number. This could be bad. And then I was like, is it actually Tony Abbott's phone number? Maybe it's a travel agent's phone number or something, right? And so then I looked up, do they have to have that real phone number? And according to some new law or some new thing in 2019, then yes, it has to be the actual passenger's contact number so they can tell them if there's an emergency or a flight change or something. So I was like, yep, that would have to be Tony Abbott's phone number. So then I was like, okay, this is like starting to be the kind of situation that may take months to resolve. And so I was thinking, I quickly Googled it. I was like, is anyone tweeting about this? Is anyone else talking about Tony Abbott's boarding pass? Maybe some absolute bozo has done the same thing as me, but then also posted about it. No one had. It was just nothing. So for a quick recap, in my fun Sunday afternoon drinking water session, I found Tony Abbott's passport number, and also phone number, and also all this airline stuff. And it was then that I was thinking, like, this is not really something I can undo. This is kind of just happening now. And here's a quick little window into what I was thinking at the time. I was thinking like, oh, geez, this is bad. What am I supposed to do? Now I have to like reset Tony Abbott's passport number. Like, it's not even my passport number. Also, can you reset? Is that a thing? Like, you can reset passports, but I don't know. And then also, is it possible that I've done a crime? Anyway, that's the end of the first act. Here's a quick intermission. Okay, I'm glad we enjoyed that. Intermission's over. Now it's time for Act 2. In this act, I will try to resolve all of these problems while not getting arrested. I realized that I had inadvertently entered into the Do Not Get Arrested Challenge 2020. There's also a lot of extremely unsatisfying and boring phone calls with the government in this section, which I will not be including in this section because I respect my audience. That's right, that's you. So let's get started. The first thing I wanted to figure out is, have I done a crime? But then I wanted to figure out, okay, I think I need to tell someone about this so they can fix it, reset the passport number, do something. Do I have to tell Tony Abbott? Do I have to tell his security team? Does he have a security team? I didn't know. And also I wanted to publish a blog post about this because, you know. And then finally I was like, well, also Qantas should know because they probably don't want to be sending me the passport number in the page. So I should tell them about it so they can fix it and so that doesn't happen anymore. So that's the first thing I tried to figure out. I kind of did these all at the same time, but vaguely the first thing was I wanted to know, have I done a crime? And I was like, well, was any of that illegal? And to answer that question, I would need to know what the laws are, and I realized I don't know what the laws are. And so then I tried to read the laws, and this, like, reading JSON was fine, but reading, whoever wrote this is like... and so I'm possibly the furthest thing that there can be from a lawyer, so like, I wouldn't take any of this seriously if I were you, but if you're the kind of person who takes legal advice from conference talks, who am I to stop you? Not a lawyer, that's who. Do not do that. And I was thinking maybe I should get some free government legal advice. I was like, maybe I can ask somebody who knows about this. I thought to myself, legally. And so I called up this random government phone number that was like, hello, we'll give you legal advice. And I asked them like, oh, I didn't just say, hey, so I've got Tony Abbott's passport number because I don't think you're meant to do that. And so I was like, if someone had found the like personal information of a former politician, hypothetically, possibly, or something, would that be a crime? And the people like, they didn't really know, which is fair enough, because they were like, we don't really know about how all this computer stuff works, we know law stuff, and like, that's fair. And so I was like, well, I need to find a lawyer who knows about computers. How do I find one? I eventually talked to 2 separate lawyers who vaguely know about computers and who told me in terms that were definitely not legal advice, but just something that they thought I should know, that it's fine, probably, don't even worry about it. And I was like, okay, great. So now I can like tell people about this. That good enough for me, that counts. Check, have not done a crime. That looks like it's checking off that I have done a crime, but I really am checking off that I haven't. You know what I'm talking about. Good, I'm so glad you know. And so then I was like, okay, who do I tell about this? Who cares about this? And who cares about fixing this? And who knows how to fix this? I don't know. And I know you may be thinking, wait, but Alex, do you see the problem? Do you see the irony in this? You have Tony Abbott's phone number right there, so you could just call you, and then, but like, no, you can't just do that, because like, Tony Abbott didn't like want me to have his phone number, presumably, because he didn't like give it to me. It was just in this web page. And like, if it was an emergency or something, like if something was going to happen in the next like 1 hour, unless he heard about it, then sure, I probably would have done it. But like, otherwise, I feel like this is not the like polite thing to do when you're trying to tell someone about a security problem. Also, there's this like thing that happens, which I'm sure none of you have ever had happen to you, where you're trying to report a security problem to somebody, and you're saying, hey, like, there's this problem with your security, and they say, oh, I see, so you're a hacker, and you're trying to hack me, and this is blackmail, and you're ransoming things, and you're like, no, please, I don't want to do that. And I really wanted to avoid that on a governmental scale, so I wanted to do this the official, proper, nice way where no one thinks I'm trying to blackmail them. And so obviously I went to Tony Abbott's website, I was like, does he have a contact me form? And he does. He has this form where you can send him anything, and anyone can send him anything. And I was thinking, like, he's probably not reading these responses, because, like, there's probably been quite a lot of, like, passionate typing into this form on, like, weeknights by people. And so I'm kind of imagining, like, whatever they send, critical security advisory, then whatever, I don't think they're going to read it, you know? And so, but then, like, I was like, oh, should I bother sending anything? But I decided to send it anyway, because, like, what do I have to lose? And the form doesn't even work. When you hit send, it doesn't work. It doesn't send anything. And like, this is an incredibly effective way of solving the problem of people keep sending me angry emails. Yeah. So then I was like, at this point, I might as well just call the Liberal Party. And so I did. Found their phone number. I was like, hey, so I want to report the security issue. I didn't say Tony Abbott to anybody. I just said like, oh, with a former politician or something. And they were like, yeah, we don't know. I called them and they were like, yeah, we don't know about any of this cybersecurity stuff. Also, if they're a former member, we can't help you because like they're not part of our thing anymore. And that was the general summary of them. The general summary is they're like, we don't know about any of this stuff. Have you tried the Contact Me form on his website? Maybe you should try that. And I was like, yeah, no, I've tried the form. Okay. And so, you know, let's skip a few more calls like this where I call people and they say this, and they can't help, and so on and so forth. And eventually I'm like, this is not working, all the public access lines. Maybe I know someone who knows someone at the government. Maybe I don't know the right person to talk to, but maybe someone I know has done this, not this exact kind of thing before, but something like this before, and they know somehow who I'm supposed to talk to. And so then I messaged my friend, are you in the audience, Liam? There you are. Thank you, Liam, for letting me message you. And I was asked, hey, what do I do? And Liam linked me to cyber.gov.au, so I knew it was going to be good. And this is a website where you can report a security issue with the government. But when I went there, it was like, hey, this is where you report a cybercrime. If you want to turn yourself in, like, who have you done a crime to? Have you done a crime to you or someone you know, or a business, or a government department? I'm like, I haven't done a crime. Please, I don't want to click any of these buttons. And so I was like, I don't know if I want to do that, Liam, geez. And then, I feel like really Liam should say this part, but I guess I'm going to say it. And then Liam said these things, which was, oh yeah, it's hard if you know what you're doing on this website because it says cybercrime. Worst case scenario, I've called them once and had a positive experience. 1-300-CYBER1. I wish I was joking, in brackets. And he was like, call 1-300-CYBER1. And I was like, I'm extremely going to do that. Like, I'm definitely going to call this number if it's really what, like, I guess I could have like asked, is this a joke? Because like maybe I'm being epically trolled by Liam, I don't know. But like, I am going to call this number. And I extremely did, this very real number. And I called them and I was like, hey, is this 1-300-CYBER1? And they're like, yep, 1-300-CYBER1, what can we? They didn't say that, but I wish they did. I mean, I would if I was answering the phone. And they were like, I vaguely explained, hey, I want to report a security issue, but no, it's not with a website, it's more like with a person. And they were like, okay, here's an email address that you can email where we will, like, someone will talk to you about this, someone from ASD. And I was like, oh, okay, great. You couldn't just put the email address on the web, okay, whatever. I'm happy to call the number. In fact, overjoyed to call 1-300-CYBER1 at any time. I assume it's 24 hours. And so I did email this email address, and I was like, hey, found Tony Abbott's passport number. It's publicly exposed, sorry for clickbait subject line, but it's kind of true. And they replied like instantly, which is great. And they gave me that DLM equals sensitive in the top, which is how I knew I made it big, no longer unclassified. And they said, hey, thanks for the email about the potential exposure. And I was like, okay, all right, I get it, potential exposure. Can you tell us more about this, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yes, I can extremely tell you all about it. I told them everything, and they were like, cool, thanks, we're doing it. And the conclusion of that whole emailing thing is they were like, anyway, we've engaged with the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet and are doing an investigation. We are never going to tell you anything about this ever again. Thanks for your help, though, kiddo. Keep it up, citizen. We got this from here. And like, fair enough. And I was like, hey, can you give me permission to publish a blog post? And they're like, no, we don't know how to do that. Or, like, we can't give you permission. And also, we don't really know. You can try emailing this government email address. They didn't reply. But like, close enough. That counts. They've got Tony Abbott's passport number now. They can, ASD, it's in ASD's hands now. They got this. And so that brings us to the next part, which is, okay, what about Qantas? They need to know about all this as well. And so I eventually found an email address for Qantas. I originally couldn't find the security email address, and so I had to call some phone number because that was the only thing I could find that was about security. And the person was like, no, this is like airport security, like at the airport. I was like, oh, what do I do for for cyber security? I want to report a thing. And they're like, email security at. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm so sorry. I should have just checked that. Anyway, so I did that, and I told them all about it in the issue. And they were like, hey, thanks for reporting this. It's been forwarded to the internal team. We're working on this. And then I never heard from them ever again. And I was like, oh, okay, that's sad. And I was like, hello. After months, I was like, hello, I missed you. What happened? Hello, are you there? Like, what's going on with the security thing? But they also didn't reply. And it turns out I don't know what happened. Maybe they were just leaving me unread savagely. But they probably have I think that the reason they didn't reply is because Qantas was kind of having a bad time at the time with everybody getting laid off and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's fair enough. The whole world's kind of shutting down right now. That's fair. And I was like, well, how long should I give them to like reply to me or fix this bug? Eventually, I started talking to somebody else who worked there in their like media department. So I had a contact there who was telling me how it was going. But I was like, well, how long are you supposed to give someone to fix a bug? Like, how long before I disclose it publicly should I give them? And usually 90 days is what I've seen people do. And I was like, well, should I give them 90 days? By the time I was thinking about this, it had already been way more than 90 days. But I was like, well, I mean, normally it would be bad because there'd be people flying every day and like the risk that every day this could happen to them, but no one was really flying at the time because of see earlier. And also Qantas was going to take a long time to fix it because also see earlier. And so I was like, well, I guess I should just give them as much time as they want to, or as much time as they need to do it until people start flying again. They were also saying that it's not a bug in Qantas, it's a bug in Amadeus, which is like some airline software, something that they use, so it was taking even longer because of that. And I was like, okay, that's fine, Kings, go off, take your time, do whatever you need to do. And 5 months later, they did get back to me saying, well, I mean, they said a lot of things, but the main message that I got out of it is they wanted to email me to thank me from refraining from posting, which I wish people would thank me for that more often. But they were saying, yeah, thank you for letting us review, and from refraining from posting, you're welcome. And then they were saying, we appreciate you being so responsible and bringing it to our attention, which so we could fix the issue, which we did a few months ago now. I think they fixed it, but they forgot to tell me for a while, but they did. And then I was like, that's cool, don't even worry about it. What did you change? What did you fix? How did this happen? Like, what did you even change? And they were like, we cannot tell you that. We're not going to do that. It's just fixed now. I couldn't actually test that it was fixed because I didn't have a valid booking reference, but someone else tested it for me. It seemed fine. And so I was like, yeah, close enough. That counts. It's fixed. Qantas has got this. Check. We're done with this part. And so that brings us to the last part, which is to get permission to publish this blog post, which I wanted to write. And so I had to find Tony Abbott or his staff or something. And so I was like, okay, so somewhere out there, the government is trying to reset Tony Abbott's passport number, and someone, probably whoever's trying to reset Tony Abbott's passport number, can give me permission to write a blog post about it, or can read my draft and say, yeah, it's okay to publish that or something. I don't know. And I was like, how do I find these people? At this point, I may as well just call the Liberal Party again. And so I did. And they were like, hey, this time I don't have a security issue to report. Do you have Tony Abbott's contact details, just randomly? And they were like, oh, no, Tony Abbott, he's not a politician anymore. We're not associated with him. We don't have that. And I was like, well, then why do you? It's fine, okay. But they were like, oh, if you want that, you could just call Parliament House. And they're like, oh, they suggested that I call Parliament House like I was a queen or something. And I was like, really? Okay, fine, I'll call. No, that's not right. No, yes, I called Parliament House, and I was like, hello, it's me, an Australian citizen. Do you have Tony Abbott's contact details? And they were like, no, we wouldn't have that. I didn't even tell them why I was calling or anything. I just skipped that part. They were just like, hey, do you have Tony Abbott's number? And because I do, but I'm wondering if you, anyway. And I didn't say that part. And they were like, no, I don't have, the person I talked to was like, I don't have that, but I can put you through to the Surgeon at Arms, and they can help you. And I was like, okay, hello. And the Surgeon at Arms I looked up what a Surgeon at Arms is. Apparently it's that. And I was like, hello, do you have Tony Abbott's contact details? And they were like, oh, his phone number? And they were like, oh, he's not in an office. He's in a temporary office right now, so he doesn't have a phone, but I can give you an email address or a PO box. And I was like, yeah, sure. And they gave me the email address. I emailed Tony Abbott, no reply, of course, because it was pretty easy to get that email address, so that surely everyone has it, so surely no one reads it. I didn't bother sending him mail. I think that would have taken too long anyway. Also, don't really know how to use a post office, so that was not an option for me. And so at this part of the story, kind of just months passed of me doing nothing and being like, maybe the government will reply to my email, maybe, but they didn't. And I was kind of not sure what to do, and I was waiting for Qantas to fix the bug at this point. And then eventually one day I had this moment of inspiration or something where I was like, wait a minute, I can't just sit here while I'm getting left on red by the government. This is not okay. I have to do something about this. This is not acceptable. So I asked my journalist friend, and they had a really good idea, which was, because they're professional journalists, which makes sense, and I should have asked them earlier, but they were like, oh, find Tony Abbott's staff, his team, from when he was the Prime Minister, and ask if they have his contact details. And I was like, okay, that actually sounds like a great idea. So I looked up Tony Abbott and his gang on Wikipedia when he was Prime Minister, and there's all these ministers, all these people, and but when I was trying to find out which of them to contact, it was all like, this person is a former Prime Minister, is a retired politician, and so on and so on, but I need someone who has an office now that I can call, as opposed to someone who's retired like Tony Abbott, because that's the same problem again. And I was like, is this going to work? But then toward the bottom of the list was this guy called Scott Morrison. And I was like, oh, he definitely has an office. He definitely has one. This is going to be great. And it was really easy to find that phone number, no emotional roller coaster. It was just on Google, it was really easy. And I was like, time to call the Prime Minister's office, I guess. And when I called this number, people didn't answer for a few seconds. They were just quiet. And then there was two women laughing about something in the background. And I was like, hello, is this? And then they were like, hello, Prime Minister's office. And I was like, hey, I have a time-sensitive media inquiry, which is what my journalist friend said to say. And do you have Tony Abbott's contact details? They did not check if I was a journalist or anything, by the way. They were just like, sure, here. They were like, I don't know how you prove you're a journalist. You say your journalist number? I don't know. But And they were like, we wouldn't have that. Oh no, firstly I was saying, do you have Tony Abbott's contact details? And the person like immediately interrupted and was like, so Tony Abbott's not Prime Minister anymore, actually Scott Morrison's Prime Minister now. And I was like, I know who Scott Morrison's Prime Minister now, please. I'm just wondering if you have them anyway. And they were like, we wouldn't have that information because Scott Morrison's Prime Minister now. I'm like, yes, I know. But they're like, but I'll check anyway. And I was like, okay, cool. And the person was checking for like a long time, like 15, 30 seconds. I don't know what they were checking, but they did. And when they came back, they were like, oh, actually, I've got Tony Abbott's personal assistant's mobile number. Is that good? And I was like, yes, that's extremely good. What? Yes. And you're just going to give that to me? Thank you so much. I'm here to help Australia as well. Cool, let's do it. And they did, and I immediately called that number. And I was like, hello, is this Tony Abbott's personal assistant? And the person was like, oh, no, I'm not Tony Abbott's personal assistant, but I am a member of his staff. And I was like, okay. It later turned out that he was actually Tony Abbott's personal assistant or something. So I was like, okay, that's fine. I'm fine with that. And I was like, hey, so I found this security issue and like the passport number, and I talked to the government, and I want to write this blog post, and the person like interrupted and was like, sorry, like who are you and where are you calling from? And I was like, oh, I mean, like I'm just Alex. I don't like I'm not calling from anywhere. I'm just like a person. Like I work at Atlassian, but they don't know about this. Like, and the person was like, I'm going to need to call you back after I process all that. And I was like, that's very fair and very valid. Oh, and and I was like, before you go, just want to be very clear that I'm calling to like try and help with this and not blackmail you into anything. And I'm not saying I hacked anyone. I'm not here to do a crime. And they were like, okay, well, I'll call you back. And then, I don't know, half an hour later or something, I got a call from a private number. And I was like, okay. And this time, it actually was Tony Abbott's personal assistant. We went one layer higher. And I was like, hello, are you Tony? Hello. And the person was like, hello, yes, I'm Tony Abbott's personal assistant. And I was like, amazing, incredible. I'm calling because, and they were like, he was like, yeah, I know. I got the email from ASD. I'm canceling Tony Abbott's passport right now. I know what you're talking about. I've read the emails. And I was like, yes, finally. I've called so many people who don't know what I'm talking about. It's good to finally call someone who like understands and also can help because they're Tony Abbott's personal assistant. And I was like, yes, I want to write this blog post. I was wanting to get permission about it. He was like, yeah, send us a draft and like we'll review it and let us know if there's anything you want to change. And I was like, okay, great. And then he was like, the Tony Abbott's personal assistant was like, these things do interest him. He's quite keen to talk to you. And I was like, what? Like, why? Why does Tony Abbott want to talk to me? And he was like, oh, just to pick your brain on these things. And I was like, what? Like, at this point in the story, I'm like declared emotional bankruptcy a long time ago. So I'm like, yeah, all right, sure, okay. At this point, I owe it to my country. Let's go. And so like we set a time to talk. I make a quick calendar event, and we called on Friday, and so we set the call for like the next Monday in the afternoon. And the personal assistant was like, are you free on Monday? I'm like, oh, let me just check my calendar. I probably am free, but like, and then I got another call from a private number. Good to see the phone number's not getting leaked in this way. And then when I answered the phone, it was Tony Abbott and his personal assistant there. And he had like a whole bunch of questions, which I thought were actually pretty good questions, some of them. And I wanted to tell you about it professionally. Nope, that's cool, I'll just memorize them. And so he asked like, firstly he was like, so as soon as I answered the phone, I was like, hello, and he was like, so my understanding of what happened is, like I posted my boarding pass and this happened and so on and so on. And he explained his understanding of what had happened, which was like mostly correct. And he said that anyone who can work the IT could have got my passport number. And I'm going to start using that phrase now, saying that, you know, oh yeah, I've been working the IT, if you know what I mean. And I was like, yeah, that's right, they could have got your passport number, that's what happened. And he was like, oh, so like, how come you can get he said, how much can a tech-savvy person get from the boarding pass, and what do people like me need to know to be safe? And I was like, oh yeah, what do people need to know to be safe? That's a pretty good question. And I was like, well, I do know about the computers, I do have the tech savviness, but you don't need to do what I did. Like, all I did was do the right-click inspect. Have you seen the video? I didn't ask him to see the video, but like, you didn't have to do anything that special to do this. Like, you can all do it now. Not that you should, just that you could. And he was like, yeah, okay. So then he was like, well, but how come, like, he said that, like, how come you can get a passport number from the plane ticket, but like, you can't get them from a bus ticket back for how bus tickets used to be back in the day? And I was like, I think I've seen a bus ticket before, and I think that's because the difference is that the bus ticket doesn't have The boarding pass has a password for a website printed on it, whereas the bus ticket doesn't have, you can't use it to log into a website. And generally logging into websites is widely regarded as a bad idea. And so that's where it all goes terribly wrong. And he was like, yeah, okay. And then he had a question about bank accounts. He was like, but like if someone has my BSB, my bank account, my BSB and my account number, they can send me money, but they can't take money out without the password. How come this is like that? And I was like, oh yeah, that's also kind of a good question. It's kind of confusing. Like basically the booking reference is the password and does like, not just identify, it identifies you and it like authorizes you to do stuff. So that's why that happens. Okay, fair enough. And then he was like, oh, that's bad. And then he was like, you know, it's a funny old world, just out of nowhere. And I was like, and then he said, today I tried to log into a Teams meeting, and then he told me Teams is one of those apps. I was like, and the fire brigade uses a Teams meeting, and I was like, And he said, anyway, I got fairly bamboozled by that. And I can now log into a Teams meeting in a way that I couldn't before. And I was like, what? And then he was like, it's, I suppose, a terrible confession of how people my age feel about this stuff. And then, for a brief moment, the entire world stood still. The Earth stopped spinning. And then he said, you could drop me in the bush, and I would feel perfectly confident navigating my way out, looking at the sun and the direction of rivers, and figuring out where to go. But this, ha. This is possibly the most pure and powerful Australian thing a person can say. And it explains how we elected our strongest as our leader. But also, this. Someone on Twitter sent me this, and I'm just glad that things have improved in the last 10 years. I'm glad that Tony's navigation skills have improved, because it seems like that would help. And then he asked, oh, hey, is there a book about the basics of IT that I can read to learn about how this happened so it cannot happen again? And I was like, oh yeah, I would want to learn about it too. I was like, well, there probably is a book, but it probably won't help. Because I didn't learn from book, and he was saying that his younger daughters, they help him with computer things. And I was like, they didn't read a book to learn this. They kind of just figure it out. People 15-year-old Instagram influencers, they don't read books, they just vibe and figure out how it all works. And so I skipped the Instagram part when I was telling him this. And so I told him a story about my mum instead, because when I was a kid, here's my mum's stance on computers when I was a kid. There were too many buttons on the computers, and she's afraid to press the buttons because she doesn't know what the buttons do. And that's kind of fair enough. I can kind of understand that, because you're what if the button does something bad? What if it deletes everything? What if it does something that I can't undo later? And I can get that because adults don't have the sheer dumb hubris of a child. Because when a kid is trying to learn how to use a spoon or a fork for the first time, they don't know what a fork or a spoon is, or what year it is, or who the prime minister is, or anything. They just see the spoon and they see the I don't know, cereal, and their tiny baby brain is yeah, and they try and do it. And they probably get it wrong the first few times because they've literally never done it before, but they don't know to be afraid of getting it wrong because they're a kid, right? And eventually they get it right because they've just done it enough times and they try different ways, and eventually they learn and get it right. But some people don't feel this way about computers. They're too afraid to try, and so they never get to learn, they never get to get it right, and they get stuck being afraid of the buttons. And so I'd always tell my mum, oh, Mum, you just got to press all the buttons, because that's how you know what they do. You can just press them all. And she was like, I don't know. I don't know if that helped. I don't know if this helped Tony Abbott, but I did tell him the story. I didn't call him Mum. I just told him the story that I'd say to my mum, just to be clear. And then I was like, anyway, can I write a blog post about all of this? And he was like, yeah, you've let me know about something I probably should have known about, and so if you want to do that, go for it. And I was like, okay, excellent, nice, I'll send you a draft. And then he was like, yeah, if there's ever anything you think I need to know, give us a shout. And I was like, thank you. And that means we did it, because he said I could write the blog post. It's as simple as that. All we needed to do was that. And that means that I've so far completed the Do Not Get Arrested challenge. 2020 wasn't over, but I got all the way through talking to him without getting arrested. And then also I've been talking about hubris a lot in this talk, and I kind of wanted to explain what I mean by hubris. What I mean is the willingness to risk breaking the rules. And it doesn't mean the law necessarily, it just means breaking any the rules of a game, or social rules or anything. So for example, if you're at a fancy restaurant with I don't know, white tablecloth or something, And the waiter asks you, oh, hey, do you want still or sparkling water? And like if you say still, it costs like $11. And if you say sparkling, it costs like $11, and it's all fizzy and gross, and I don't like it. And so this seems like kind of a bad choice. But one time I saw someone just say, oh no, tap water please. And then the waiter was like, okay, and bought tap water instead, which was free. And I was like, what? You can just do that? I didn't know you could just do that. And like now that I've seen them do it, now I can do that too. But like, the idea is that like, if you haven't seen the rules be broken before, if you haven't broken them yourself, or if you haven't like experienced it, the idea that the rules can be broken just may not occur to you in the first place. And so I hope that explains why I ended up doing this. In conclusion, to be a hacker, you ask for tap water. I hope that helped. Okay, that's the end of Act 2. Time for a quick intermission. Why don't we just, all right, okay, now let's go to Act 3. So this isn't over because this is all up to what led up to publishing the blog post. And I did publish the blog post. I sent a review to Qantas. I sent a draft to Qantas and Tony Abbott, or Tony Abbott's personal assistant, and so on. Tony Abbott's personal assistant presumably read the whole thing, and was like, yep, no corrections. It's fine. It's perfect. Nothing to change. And I was like, okay, great. And I know what you're all wondering, which was, what was the internet's response to this? What was the comment section like? And so I wanted to sort of take you through what the comment section was like, and also what journalists wrote about it, and I just kind of wanted to take you through what it was like for me for those like 1 or 2 days afterwards. Firstly, I got completely dragged by these journalists who called me a hacker in double quotes. That's kind of unrecoverable. Also, this is the picture that they put, like me like looking at Tony Abbott, like. And then in the article, they said, the self-described hacker, like this is devastating reputationally. And they talked about stuff. And then in another article, they say, oh, Australian tech expert. This is far from the truth. And in another article, they say, oh, a curious blogger. I guess that's kind of true. But they also said, I did it by accident. And like sort of. And then this other website was like, oh, firstly, hacker in double quotes. Secondly, he says he could do it to you too. I didn't say that. And lastly, said he did it as a dare. Who dared me to do that? Who would do that? Who would dare me to, like, absolutely not. And then this other article said the one thing that I was too afraid to say, which was, the lesson is never post on Instagram. And I was like, oh, thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. I couldn't, but you could. You walked so I could run article. And then also, and then you're wondering, what about my Twitter DMs? Of course. And these, I'm telling this random person my Twitter DMs, I'm thinking of making a presentation about all the weird Twitter DMs I got. And the person is like, oh, there's some weird ones. And I'm like, no, they're very normal. Most of them were actually really nice. Most of them were people just saying that they liked it. And I was like, oh, okay, thank you. That's actually really nice. Oh. Then there's a bunch of journalists saying like, hey, you know, keep in touch. If this kind of thing happens again, I'd love to hear about it, love to write more about it. And I was like, hey, I don't do this. This is not my thing. Like, this is just like an accident. Like, this is a big misunderstanding. I'm not going to, like, how do you think, I don't have like this is not going to be a thing. Then I got a quick DM from Tony, who needed help with Netflix, and like, that's really helped out with that. Don't even worry about it, it's fine. Then I got this message from my friend who was like, is this what you wanted with this picture? And the answer is no. This is far beyond what I could have possibly wanted for this whole experience. Then I got, if I can be vulnerable on stage for a moment, then I got completely dragged by this tweet. This person who says, prior to scrolling any further, I spent 2 minutes imagining the situation in which Tony Abbott had been posting on Instagram about the Scott Pilgrim movie, with this just cut off here. Unrecoverable is what I would call that. And then this like kind of famous person like was tweeting, like replying to a tweet or something, or tweeting at me saying, hey, do you need a lawyer? And I was like, nope, I'm good, I haven't done a crime. And then they were messaging me being like, okay, so here's some numbers for some lawyers I know, and like this person's really good. I'm like, I still don't need one. And they were like, oh, well, I'm sorry. I thought it was a star avatar. This was my Twitter picture at the time. And then I was like, excuse me, what was a star avatar? What are you sorry for? What are you talking about? And they were like, oh, I just thought you were 12 because, you know, and they say a whole bunch of things about how they thought I was 12 because of about writing, and they say, I'm so sorry. And I was like, thank you so much for your help. I still don't need a lawyer. It's okay, though. This random person in the YouTube comments said he's not a hacker, just some degenerate. But, like, I cannot find it within myself to disagree. This person emailed me to tell me that Google Chrome is a kind of web browser and that I could have said browser instead of Google Chrome, and I was like, thank you so much. This person just emailed me to say, honk, they need water. This is the best one. Then I got this other email from Anonymous, and they said, hey, there's this 20-year-old chat room. It's got a bunch of semi-famous, semi-literate, elite jerks in it, and there's one Canadian guy. Anyway, if it sounds mysterious and cool, don't worry. It's not. I'm just making it sound that way. Anyway, if you want to join our Discord Illuminati, here's the link to join the Discord Illuminati. When I joined, there was this guy saying, I'm going to go outside and yell, hey Google, until someone pays me to stop. So it's going good. I'm still in there. These people seem really nice. Then some random person said, hey, have you thought about doing a book? And I was like, no, I didn't. I asked them, what would the book be about? And they're like, oh, just, about your whole life story and how you got to this point. And I was like, I haven't really done my life story yet. I didn't think that would. And this other person was like, oh, hey, have you thought about doing a movie? And I was like, really? I don't think this would make a good movie. I don't think this is the movie. They didn't get back to me. But the best response I got to all of this was an email I'm about to show you from my mum. Here it is. And it says, yes, firstly, yes, it is all in the subject line. It says, am I really going to read this? I guess I'm going to read this. It says, hi, Mum. Oh, I mean, hi, Alex. I laughed out loud at this one and the spoon, and it was such a weird roller derby tale that I was so honored to be included in the trial and error write your own adventure. I also laughed a lot at your I was so stuck by you can drop me in the middle of the bush reference that you just had to review your notes, and I was thinking maybe we could do a podcast about Okay, Mum, thank you. Thanks, Mum. And then I got this Twitter DM from someone who says, hello, I work on 7 Sunrise, which is like an early morning TV show in Sydney, and I think it's in other places. We're wondering if you'd like to go on the show and discuss this. And I was like, well, my mum would really like that, so I'm going to do that. But before I show you the clip, I wanted to show you a message that I got from one of my friends who's currently a uni student about a week and a half ago. And they say, my criminology course just showed your Sunrise clip as part of our tutorial today. And I messaged the lecturer, I emailed the lecturer who sent me the slides, and indeed, here is one of the slides about self-control and cybercrime. And my friend says, currently in a breakout room discussing what motivated you to commit this crime. And I was like, what? Have I done a crime? This person's a criminology professor. They probably kind of know a lot about crimes. Have I done a crime? I didn't think so. But anyway, then I emailed them, and they're like, oh, no, it's fine. It was about something, there's some difference between what I did and a crime. I don't know. Anyway, here's the slide where they say, apply the general theory of crime, self-control theory, to the actions of the hacker. So if all of you could just go into breakout rooms and discuss this and come back, we'll talk about it later. But first, let's talk about this video from Sunrise. I went to their studio at 8 in the morning, so I'm really sleepy, and it was really dark in the room, and it had blue lights and stuff, and I was like, is this going to be what I think it's going to be about? And they're like, oh yeah, bring your laptop. And I was like, really? Why? What am I going to do? And they were like, oh, just as a prop. And before I play this video, I wanted to tell you a few things about it. Firstly, what you're about to see has not been edited by me, except that I've cut out boring parts of me telling the story that I just told you, so you have to watch that again. But I've not added anything to this video. Everything you're about to see was made by the good people at 7 Sunrise. Nope, that's my only disclaimer.
Now, when former Prime Minister Tony Abbott's boarding pass was hacked a few weeks back, it raised a lot of questions about online security. Now
the hacker responsible has come forward to share his advice on keeping your data secure. And I know, it's kind of him, isn't it? Eddie has this story.
Yeah, Sam, gosh, this is a good warning for everyone. Alex Hope was able to get access to Tony Abbott's phone number, address, even passport number when the former Prime Minister innocently posted a photo of his boarding pass online. Who hasn't done that? But Alex says he was hacking for good to help expose a security loophole that has now been closed.
Former Prime Minister Tony Abbott has been hacked after posting a photo of his boarding pass on social media.
It was the hack that made headlines. Tony Abbott's private details exposed in a very public way. And this is the man responsible, professional hacker Alex Hope.
My job is to hack the place that I work over and over again and then show them how we did it. So it's kind of like my job is metaphorically to commit crimes and then write very, very detailed confession letters.
This time the confessional took the form of a blog post detailing how Alex gained access to the former Prime Minister's phone number and passport number after Mr Abbott posted this photo on social media. Alex used the booking reference number to gain access to Mr Abbott's Qantas login. From there he accessed the information behind the page.
Web pages have the part that you can see, and they also kind of have the inner workings behind the scenes. Kind of like for a clock, there's all the cogs that are inside. And it's really easy for anyone to see all the inner workings of a web page. You just right-click on the page and click Inspect Element. It's not hacking.
But it is technically not allowed. Alex notified Qantas of the breach straight away so it could be fixed. Qantas has now closed that loophole. It says, our standard advice to customers is not to post pictures of the boarding pass, or at least to obscure the key personal information if they do, because of the detail it contains. We appreciate Alex bringing this to our attention in such a responsible way so we could fix the issue, which we did several months ago. Tony Abbott also called Alex for a please explain. Most hacks are much more destructive. In July, the government warned of state-based hacking of Australian computer networks and systems, and around 1 in 3 of us will have our personal data breached at some point.
Hacking is just like, learning to do a martial art or something. You could use it to do bad things, or you could use it to do good things.
And be careful who has your email, because you never know what digital doors it can open.
Really interesting chat with Alex there. Safe to say I spent the weekend updating all of my security passwords, and I urge you guys to do the same. That two-factor authentication, so easy to do and an easy way to protect yourself online.
Gee, I bet he's going to get a lot of job offers from corporates in Australia or ASIO or something like that.
That's so
Kid's really smart.
Yeah, and so are all his mates. All his mates do the same thing. Fortunately, they're doing it for good.
Yeah, that's a great story. Thanks, Eddie.
Thank you very much.
So good, Alex. I was just laughing my head off. So we have a lot of questions, and I'll just, okay.
Go for it.
So Morton says, hey Alex, wondering what other things like boarding passes might be considered passwords that people may not realise. Any from the top of your head?
What other things are passwords that people may not realise? No, boarding passes, like booking references on boarding passes are kind of the only thing I can think of that is like, it's not sensitive information by itself, but it's a password to something and you don't realise. Because like when you type in a booking reference onto the web page, onto the managed booking page, it's not like dots when you type it. You actually see the letters. It's not obscured like a password, but it actually is one. But everything else that I can think of that's sensitive, like your license number or your passport number itself, which is not a password, it's the thing that identifies you. So nope, sorry, I can't. Can anyone else? Nope, I can't think of anything.
That's good. That was a hard question. What percentage of Atlassian's revenue is from selling its own data on the dark web?
I mean, you can just go look at the dark web post and figure it out yourself. I mean, it's all just right there. We don't call it. It doesn't say it's from Atlassian, but you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out.
Have you played around with similar vulnerabilities on platforms other than Qantas? Is this an airline industry issue or simply a Qantas issue?
Right. Just to be very clear, I don't like play around doing this. This is not like a regular thing that I do. This is just an accident because my friend messaged me. I don't know if it happens on similar airlines. I can't check because I don't have a booking reference. I didn't have a booking reference to them. My understanding is that it may affect other airlines because, Qantas said that the problem was with Amadeus, which is like software that many other airlines could use, and so presumably it could be that anyone else using the Amadeus software has the same vulnerability, but it could not be. I don't know. I'm not an airline security expert.
Do you think there should be clearer laws around cybercrime and reasonable disclosure in Australia?
Yes, there should be clearer laws. People like me should not be allowed to get away with this kind of thing. Around reasonable disclosure, I don't know. I don't really know what the actual laws are, so I don't know if they need to be more clear. I guess it'd be good to know how much time you're supposed to give someone. I've seen like the industry standard is 90 days, but I'm just copying that from seeing everyone else doing it. I don't know if it's a law or anything. So like maybe, but once again, I insist I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know.
Which politician have you got your sights on for the next edition of not getting arrested?
So like, I don't know, I really have to be clear, this is not like my regular thing. Maybe like, look, if someone sends me another message being like, hey, here's another politician posting their boarding pass, I'll be like, really? That seems like a coincidence. But once again, this is not my regular thing that I do.
Have you notified ASD how easy it is to socially engineer parliamentary staff?
I don't think I remember social engineering any parliamentary staff, so no, I have not notified them of that fact. Thank you so much for asking, whoever that was, though.
They might be referring to the way you got in contact, I'm not sure.
Oh, the thing right. Where I was like, hello, I'm not saying I'm a journalist, but I'm saying what a journalist would say. No, I kind of thought that was how it all worked. I mean, if someone wants to invent a scheme where journalists have journalist numbers that they have to say over the phone, then yeah, I guess, but I can't see that being used very much. Oh.
When are you writing a book on how to work the IT?
I don't have any plans to write a book about this, but if I did, I'd have to really strongly stop myself from calling the book How to Work the IT.
Is that your face on the mug in your pic, and where can people buy them?
Yes, that is my face on the mug in the picture. No, you cannot buy one. Do you know where I got that mug from? That mug was a gift from my mum out of nowhere, and it has various other photos of me around it on the other side of the mug that you can't see. And so this year I said, hey Mum, that was a really good mug. This year, can I have a mug with that photo of me drinking from the other mug on it? And so now I have that mug. And I will keep you updated about next year.
Would you go on Sunrise again?
Would I go on Sunrise again? Absolutely not. My mum is already satisfied.
What is your preferred method of secure authentication?
What is my preferred method of secure authentication? I know what those words mean separately, but not having anything secret and not having to log into anything in the first place.
I like this one. Did you invite Tony Abbott to bsides so he can learn to work the IT?
I actually thought you would have done that, Kylie. I didn't want to step on your toes, you know. I thought, like...
Well, he's your buddy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, maybe you don't have his number. Maybe that's it, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
No, he lives in Sydney, so I guess he couldn't be here today.
There's so many. Any tips for the Do Not Get Arrested Challenge 2021?
Yes, my number one tip for Do Not Get Arrested Challenge 2021, if you're participating, is do not do a crime.
Okay, I think we'll have to wrap it up now. We've got our next speaker waiting in the wings. But thanks again, Alex. Another big round of applause for Alex.